Hey, before I kick off the podcast, I just want to shout out Next Door Clothing. Next Door, a clothing brand based out of Bondi in Sydney. They're making really nice jeans and shirts and hats. So go and check out their full range at nextdoorsydney.com. They're also artists, so you can go and check out a range of art. They put on rad parties, and I love what they're doing. So nextdoorsydney.com for the full range. Yeah, what are those boards in the background?
I'm at my buddy Ega's house. He's kind of like, he's a pro skater here in Bandung. And he owns a skate park here in town. And he's got a skate brand, Malta. Those are all his boards that he's produced.
Oh, I know they are. I like the graphic.
Yeah, he's an artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Here we go. Okay, this is for Clementine and Otis. All right, so I'm going to start with some shout-outs today. First and foremost, our major sponsor, Indosole. If you go to indosole.com and use code THT, you'll get a 15% discount. But it's not really about the discount. It's more about you'll be making a conscious consumer decision, and you'll be perpetuating companies to think more sustainably and environmentally friendly. So get on the website. I just got myself a sick pair of crossover slides. They're the leaf green ones, and now I'm feeling like a Canggu hipster again. You know, I'm having visions of me cruising around Canggu with my shirt off on my scooter, no helmet, looking for a mushy patch or something. Who knows? But I'm just kidding. Also, I want to go back to the Help Stephen Ellis Get a Car GoFundMe. Now, you know, I've spoken a lot about Stephen Ellis over the past. He's one of the most inspirational humans I know. He's an amazing skateboarder, but he's also a double leg amputee. And he's in a situation where he really needs a car so he can drive his children around. He needs $20,000 to buy a car that is able to be modified for his specific needs. Now, he is unable to use prosthetics, so the car has very specific requirements. The GoFundMe is now up to $12,500 of the $20,000 needed. So it's an amazing effort for all the people that have been chucking in. So if you can throw in a few bucks, get on the Help Stephen Ellis Get a Car GoFundMe. All right, we're ready to roll. Kai Paul, are you ready, homie?
Yes, sir.
I'm having a good time.
You are?
Yeah.
I can tell.
And we are rolling too.
Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks. Terrible happy talks. Today's guest is Kai Paul. Kai is an environmentalist, entrepreneur, basketball fiend, surfer, and co-founder of the footwear and apparel company INDOSOLE. Kai was a guest on the show back in episode 37, and today he's with me live from Indonesia for a catch-up to share his journey of the last 12 months, his experiences, challenges, and hopes for the future. Kai Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Shannon. Nice to be with you again. Always a pleasure hearing your voice.
Yeah, thanks, man. Likewise. It's actually so good to see you visually. You know, like the moustache, bro. Talk to me about the moustache. Is it a Movember thing?
No, it's a COVID invention. It was just, locked down and really wasn't seeing anybody. So I was like, this is the best time ever to just experiment. And then, the Latin lover came out. I mean, that's a joke, but not really. It's one of those things that just kind of started sticking around, and I don't know, I just kind of morphed into it. It kind of grew on me, and then I grew into it.
Dude, I'm not joking. It actually suits you because, you're bald like me, then your eyebrows sort of stop, and then, the moustache kind of fills in that space between the eyebrows. It gives you this symmetry, bro.
Yeah, it was vacant space. So, it's like, let's do something with that space, let's be efficient.
Good, man. You look like a bit of a ginger ninja, actually.
Exactly. I'm just a kung fu Kai, that's kung fu Kai. So let's go. Let's go. Let's do a little hand chops and some fuyas and some. Let's get it,
bro. Nice. Now, man, tell us where you are at the moment. Give us a rundown. Like, I know we all know you're in Indonesia, but where specifically?
I'm actually in Bandung right now at my friend Ega's house. I'm in Java, sort of, sourcing, and we've got a large production run right now, kind of one of the larger ones we've ever had at INDOSOLE, and so just looking after that, and also, continuing to source and try to find manufacturers and producers and makers and artists and basically people that us as a brand can continue to work with and expand and grow and continue to find new processes, new materials, as well as continue to develop our relationship with tire processors and manufacturers. So just here, been kind of going around for about a month, almost 5 weeks now, just kind of looking into new production and sourcing opportunities.
So you just sort of mentioned then that you're, looking to build relationship with tire producers. Has that been challenging?
Yes and no. We're slowly entering a conversation and a partnership with a larger one right now, where they're going to give us their tires to be processed and turned into soles for our footwear. I think Kyle alluded to it last time, but yeah. So basically, we're coordinating the process and it's basically they're going to take tires from their changing facilities and then deliver them to us. We're going to process them, turn them into the soles of our footwear, and so that coordination, while it seems like it should be fairly simple, it's actually becomes a little bit more complicated than originally thought, just because they have several locations where they change tires. And so just the transportation of them and the storage of them is the logistical issue that we're just working it out. It won't be an issue come the new year, but just coordinating all the ins and outs, X's and O's, all that. So
are they on board with the philosophy of what you're trying to do, or has there been a process of trying to, I guess, change the minds and change the hearts of the people that are running these organizations?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely there's definitely it's a process with any larger organization, especially in the last, I'd say, maybe 5 years. It's become quicker, but larger organizations are really starting to jump on board with creating better processes and better procedures. But it's a big thing. It's a lot of times these are. I've heard someone liken us to like a speedboat, and some of these larger organizations would be a cruise ship. So you can't really turn the bow as quick as like maybe somebody like us or somebody that's a little bit smaller and able to maneuver. So you have management upon management that you deal with, and you just continually try to make every day a win, and try to continually tell the story and the reasons behind it, and slowly more and more people are jumping on board with kind of changing the future of their business.
Yeah, I mean, it's
keep
going. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, at the manufacturing level, there's a lot of stuff that it takes time to change, because you have machinery, you have processes, you have manpower, and so it's not as quick of a turnaround as some people may think. And I have to give large organizations that are making those changes credit, and also have to be patient with them, because it is a change in a large process. The process is large enough that it's difficult to sometimes just change within even a year.
Do you think a lot of people would get to that phase in these processes and just give up because it seems too hard to make that sort of change?
Well, yeah, and there's also investment. There's investment that needs to happen on new machinery, new processes. Sometimes you like the machinery that you have, sometimes becomes out of date potentially, and potentially not being able to use anymore if you can't adjust it or adapt it into a new way of processing. So that, or buying new machinery, both are financial hazards, or financial, I guess, obstacles. And then the other thing is just time, energy, and those are also financial obstacles as well. A lot of times it comes down to money, and then humans, right? If we're in a pattern, sometimes it's hard to get us out of that pattern.
Gotcha. And it's not the norm. I mean, you're breaking the status quo. You're challenging the status quo.
Correct. Yeah. It's sometimes it's hard for us to prove that that's the actual. There's a belief system that sometimes we as a company have that maybe is hard to show the end game 100%. So you kind of have to believe as well.
Man. So
you have to kind of believe that the path forward is the right path forward. Okay.
So when I had you back on the show, like I said, episode 37, you did talk a lot about, the 10 years of Indosole. I think Indosole just celebrated their 10th or 11th birthday. From when you first started out, is your passion for environmentalism the same?
Yeah, I'd say it's the same.
Or is it?
I think obviously understanding is a lot more now, but the passion for it is the same.
Are you as inspired?
Yeah, for sure. Like, actually, I would say that's a tough question to measure passion, right? Because just as passionate as, if not more, but I couldn't really tell you more passionate, because we all kind of left a safe career or job to pursue this 10, 11 years ago. Some people, along the way. And so that to be able to do that and invest in something and start something and go, put all your heart and soul into something, that takes a lot of passion. So, but I wouldn't say that I have any less passion now. If anything, would potentially have more, because we can see the hard work and time and energy and money that we've put in start to really, turn into processes, and seeing and joining along with people that are also changing their ways and improving their ways. We'd be able to see some results, and that really strengthens passion, I would say.
Yeah, man. And like I said, since you were on last time, like well over a year ago, I want to hear a breakdown of, like, can you give us like a rundown of how would you describe the last 12 months of your life?
Yeah, the last 12 months have been really interesting, because on the work side of things, Indosole produces a large amount starts producing right now, because we have a lot of business in the Northern Hemisphere between the US and Europe, and then Japan as well, Taiwan. So these are warm, Dubai as well. These are places that are warm in the summertime, so you're delivering in the spring, right? And that means you need to start producing around the late fall in Northern Hemisphere terms, so in November. So for me, I'm kind of at the same place I was last year, as handling production and manufacturing. And so it's funny, because I'm almost in the exact same position that we were last year. And fortunately for Indosole, we've actually increased our orders this year than we had this time last year, which is really interesting, because if you go back to this time last year, and then you get into January and February, and we start having some of our larger retailers start canceling their orders, and then Bali starts getting shut down or locked down, and then Australia locks down, and a lot of people start leaving Bali, going back to Australia, and not coming back, because Bali is so heavily populated in the expat community by Australians, and in the tourists, and a lot of the tourism from Bali is dependent on Australia. And us having a shop in Bali and having a lot of retailers that we supply to in Bali, the business side of things really started becoming a little bit concerning. And there was definitely some tense moments between having accounts and retailers in the U.S. cancel orders where we already had production run in, and we had basically to pay for that order, and then income in Bali starting to stop as well, and sending basically having no staff come in for 2 months, and so it started becoming a real tense situation, and you know what, it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to us as a brand, because we started becoming very resourceful and starting shifting some practices and procedures that we have internally. It gave us time to really reflect of the last 10 years of the brand and where we wanted to go. And slowly we just got through it. 1 month went by. Became March, and then became April, and then became May. And then by June, we were like, whoa, we actually made it through these really, really rough months. And positivity started entering again. And, the light started coming at the end of the table. And now we find ourselves, or into the tunnel, sorry. And we find ourselves almost at the end of 2021, one of the wildest and weirdest years of all time, and with a really refined business, and kind of where we were, or not ahead of where we were last year at this time, in terms of where we see ourselves in 2021. So we always at this point in time, it's really time to start looking and getting excited about the next year in our business. When we start, looking into what we're going to start sampling next, and what our next colors are going to be, and what our next campaigns are going to be, and simultaneously, this is the time when Australia turns to summer. And so it's really exciting to see the Australian team get really excited, because they start getting into their summertime. Now, this year's a little bit different, and I hope things continue in Australia, because I from what I know, the lockdown isn't happening there yet, correct? As it is in Europe and Australia. But I'm hoping, seems like Australia's been navigating really well in the last couple of months.
I think it has, compared to the rest of the world. I mean, it's a hard thing to navigate, right? And various states have been locked down at different times, so hasn't been across the whole country, because I guess it's a very large country. So, yeah. Now, what I want to ask you though, Kai, is, do you actually feel then that 2020 was like the big reset that maybe you needed and maybe the company needed?
Yeah, I do. I kind of feel like that for the world in a way. You know what I mean? Like, it's been really tough. Like, and you can't take anybody's situation for granted. I mean, there's been a lot of struggle, right? People without losing their jobs, a lot of people going hungry. Obviously, the disease, some people getting sick, losing loved ones. So it's been a really, really difficult and tough year for a lot of people. I feel really lucky that so far my family's been safe and healthy and been able to navigate it. On a personal level, I started out sort of, dealing with it fine and just navigating and really, absorbing the stress of the financial stress and basically the sort of uncertainty of on the business side of things. And that in my personal life, it kind of coincided with that. I was just navigating and trying to stay positive. And then for some reason, sometime in around August or September, it kind of hit me, and I started, having some issues with, I would say, potentially my mental health, and sort of on my positivity and sort of looking at my life and saying, wanting more and wanting to progress to the next level, and sort of becoming sort of impatient with it, I'd say, and not accepting the flow of things, and sort of wanting to progress quicker than the sort of the world was able to, and sort of I was able to at that point. And it coincided with me kind of taking a little bit extra time over here in Java now, and I've taken a couple long weekends. I've gone to the Borobudur, I've gone to Mount Merapi, Gunung Merapi, gotten outside and been with myself a little bit, some alone time, and just being out in the beautiful nature of Bali, and also connecting with some spirituality that exists here. There's Hindu temples, there's Buddhist temples, there's more Muslim activity here in Java, and I've just sort of gone inward a little bit, and I'm feeling really, really good about it, and I think like if you didn't go through some sort of mental or sort of battle this year, I don't think you kind of missed 2020, I think that's part of 2020. It's been a battle.
Yeah, it has been, and it kind of kicked a lot of people out of their comfort zone. But I've spoke to a lot of people that are saying that this has been the best year of their life. And I spoke to Christian Stern. It's just like, dude, this has been the best year of my life, Been surfing uncrowded Ulu. I've had a lot of time and space to do my art. But I think for the majority it has been a struggle. And thanks so much for sharing about how it's affected you mentally, because that was one of my questions, and you've just answered it. And you sort of said that you get with nature and you take the time and space to yourself when you feel like you're not traveling well mentally. What do you feel like, to go a little bit deeper into that? What do you feel that nature does for you when you're not traveling well on a mental level? Why do you think it has an impact?
Well, because it brings back the simplicity and the joy of life. I feel like, it's like we're here for a short time. And like you say in the beginning of your podcast, trying to have a good time, right? So it kind of reconnects with, sometimes there's a lot of stress or worry. I'm also sometimes I do kind of adhere to my Virgo traits, where maybe a little bit of a perfectionist or a little bit of concern about some of the smaller things that I should let go. And yeah, Kish, I pay attention to what he says a lot, and he's had a great year out there in Ulus. I love his year, and I've had a great year in a lot of respects too. I think I just only had kind of 2 down months where I just kind of got caught in sort of it was almost, I call it a phase change. And I think they're okay. That's okay to go through, where you really start questioning your position in life. And then it's a struggle. You kind of gotta just have faith and work through it, and allow yourself to feel sort of uncomfortable and maybe not fully satisfied with where you are, so you can sort of seek out some help and seek out some friends that can help you get through it, and make sure that you're kind of on the path that you really want to be on in the end. If you're not, maybe it's time to really figure out what that next step is. And for me, it was great because I went through it, and there was some frustrations going on with, sometimes I do get frustrated with the progress of environmentalism and some things that happen in there. That is part of my existence, and wanting things to progress quicker, and how people treat each other. I'm sensitive to some of the ways of the world, and sometimes I just have to sit back and let and allow the rest of the world to just be, and not try to push my agenda or my way on the rest of the world. So that's why nature allows me to just go back and connect and say, things are going to be okay with time. Just be a little bit more patient, and allow life to happen.
Yes, brother. Yes. I love it. I love everything you just said. And I want to go back to environmentalism. What would you say to the person that thinks that the issue with environmentalism and conservationism and saving the planet, what would you say to the person that thinks that the problem's too big?
Well, yeah, it is a big problem. You know,
sorry to cut you off there, Kai, but what would you say to the person who thinks that the problem's too big to address, and why should we bother? Because it's never going to change.
Yeah, I mean, that's not really a healthy attitude to take, because I'm sure that like there's a lot of views on environmentalism, and there's a lot of different takes on the root causes of it. And one that I've been kind of paying attention to recently, because I really do believe in it, is that let's focus on human health and happiness and providing hungry people food and education, because the amount of, and I got this from a guy, Jordan Peterson, I think he's a sociology teacher, or some sort of a teacher, university teacher, but he really believes in something I kind of picked up from him was that I really agree with, is the amount of human energy or human brain capacity. If we can increase that globally on an efficient scale, where people are less hungry, they have more access to education, that'll really help us solve environmental issues more than anything else. So a happy or first of all, a healthy, educated, and happy human is the best thing you can have for environmentalism.
Yes.
And so it's a long-term game. So, I mean, this is controversial potentially, but I don't agree with the 2050 climate targets, because it just puts too much pressure. It puts too much pressure on people. So that person that you're talking about that says the problem is too big to address, they might be thinking 2050, it's already 2020, that's only 30 years.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's 2050 is a great internal goal amongst companies, and that I do agree with, but publicizing it to the public that might not fully understand it is something that I think it might be a little bit too bold. Because again, as I said before, the Industrial Revolution, it's been going for almost 200 years. So to reverse those processes within a 30 to 50 year even time frame is really difficult. Now we have more technology and processes that can advance quicker than the Industrial Revolution did. So this reindustrial revolution should be faster and much faster than the Industrial Revolution. But to label it and say if we don't get to that point, we will basically, I don't even know what they're trying to say the consequences are, but I just don't agree with that fear tactic.
Yeah. Well,
it's almost like they're pushing people through with a fear. And while I agree with those should be the targets for all, that should be the target. But it should be even before that. But by 2025, emissions are cut by this, or each company should have the freedom and the impetus to make their own targets within their company for certain things that are actually achievable. Actual achievable goals are what are going to push forward.
You've touched on like a couple of really good topics there, but the one I just want to quickly clarify with you is, are you kind of saying that there needs to be more focus on sustainability of the individual before
for sure,
the bigger changes can be made?
Yeah, but I think each company really needs to take that upon itself. That's why the B Corp model is so. The sustainability for an individual sometimes isn't the individual's choice, right? Like there's systems and businesses that need to contribute to allow the individual to be sustainable. And sustainable is such a hard word for me these days because it's not really true. It's not, the definition of sustainability is super difficult to happen. I mean, responsible is really the word that really, people should be responsible, with their actions, and whether that's being kind to other people, and again, alluding to Kish's podcast, is respect. You should have respect for other people, respect for yourself. That's being responsible, right? And that goes into like, if you can bring a water bottle to a place, that's being responsible, not sustainable, right? So being responsible is something that people can be, and that leads to what companies can do. And it's a total agreement and team effort between individuals, companies, and governments. And if each one of them goes into the idea of every day trying to be as responsible or one step more responsible, that is where we're going to see actual change. So just to do something because you want to be sustainable and labeled as sustainable might not be the right foot forward. Although, you could argue that having to reach certain sustainability targets enforced by either government or public backlash could be a good thing for the overall world. But if you just take it into account where each individual and each company and the government says, let's be more responsible, I think like that's a simpler and more positive way to move forward instead of, potentially inducing fear or fines. Or
do you feel that the climate targets of 2050? There's some conspiracy theorists would say that that's the government's way of pushing a fear agenda. How would you respond to that statement?
I mean, yeah, it's just like I get bashed by my parents, to be honest with you, when I say conspiracy theories, because they believe in the good of like people and government, and I want to believe that, and I want to believe there's no conspiracies happening, but when you start looking deeper into some of these things, and it might not be I don't know if conspiracy is the right word, but there's definitely money and control that could potentially be behind some of these things. Now the push for 2050, I couldn't tell you. I would need to look more into who would be, trying to push that fear mongering, I guess. But do you know who some of the people are saying that would be inducing that fear for 2050?
Well, just personally, I just feel like fear agenda is so insidious. And I don't want to point the finger specifically at governments. I think fear agenda is throughout our society on a variety of levels. But I just feel that a lot of people have tapped into the power of fear in terms of getting their own way. And I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I don't know. I guess I'm just challenged by the notion of letting fear personally make my decisions for me. And I think that is a trickle-on effect from above. And I feel like at the moment there's a lot of spreading of fear, even to the point where tonight I went out for dinner. I've got to scan a code to go and eat at a restaurant because of the fear that I might have COVID-19. But the thing is, that's just one example of something that's actually been happening in a lot of ways, whether it be, there's a mandatory requirement to have children vaccinated before they can go to school, whether there's, mandatory requirements for, I don't know, a lot of medical stuff in our society. So again, I'm just rambling a little bit, but yeah, I'm really challenged by the notion of fear and how it gets used. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, for example, selfishly, right? If really going to be like, we have to change the climate change by 2050 because that's better for Indosole, and more people will know about us because we're part of the solution. But that would be us or me adjoining to this fear push, right? Whereas really, fear shouldn't really exist if you are acting in a way that you're following your intuitions, right? So for me, fear doesn't really get to rule my life, unfortunately. And so some of the examples you laid out, unfortunately, are rules, or like, new rules. Some of the new rules that we face,
necessary,
right?
and
that doesn't do fear into people. Yeah. And I would say that the closer that I follow my gut or follow my intuitions, the more comfortable I am with living life. And fear doesn't come to me as, if I'm not following my intuitions and I'm going against some of my beliefs, then fear will creep in easier.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I guess what I want to ask you now is, like, you said at the start that when you're not running or you're not traveling well on a mental level, that you do tune into nature. But you said you've lived in Indonesia for many, many years now, and the spirituality of that country and the predominant religions of Hinduism and Muslim or Islam are huge there. Do you adhere to the spiritual practices of those religions?
No, I don't adhere to any spiritual practice. Any religious practice, but I do have a spirituality.
Okay.
That I go by my own spirituality, which includes many of the gods of each religion.
Okay.
I actually kind of pray to each god, because I all believe that they're like kind of one company, and they all kind of have the people that they're looking after and like helping, but in different forms.
Okay. So you do pray? You pray?
I do sometimes, yeah. I do sometimes, yes.
That's cool, man. Thanks for sharing that.
I have a moment of gratitude. A large one that I have a moment of gratitude for is Ganesh, because Ganesh is sort of known to put obstacles in front of you but then helps you overcome them.
Got you.
So I'm oftentimes saying, thank you, Ganesh. I appreciate the obstacles that you're putting in front of me and helping me overcome, because they're like continually making you a more improved and better person. And so for me, going through obstacles is a great thing.
Do you feel that your greatest adversities are your best teachers?
100%. And a lot of my greatest adversities, a lot of my greatest adversities were within me, and my sort of ability to learn how to be a better person. And I'm 41 now, and still on that journey.
Do you think that your mustache has made you a better person?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Like at least 2% better.
2%. I would say more than 2%.
I'm 100% sure. I'm 100% sure it's maybe 2% better, at least.
Like, so 60%.
I'll take it.
60% of the time, it makes you better every time. Okay.
2%.
No, thanks, Kai. Like, and I'm really like, I just get so inspired by people that open up about their inner feelings and their inner turmoil, and I'm starting to find more and more that there was a time in my life where if you felt like you adhered to some sort of spiritual practice, or if you prayed, I know in Australian culture it was something that wasn't really spoken about, especially by men. So I'm just really stoked to hear like a young man or youngish man as yourself, speak so openly about like your your desire to evolve and your desire to connect spiritually?
Yeah, thanks, man. I mean, I would say that that's sort of a new thing that I would open up about that, but I'm not ashamed of it one bit. So there's no reason I wouldn't want to share just sort of what I do in life. I'm happy to.
How long have you lived in Indonesia now?
Total of 22 years.
Okay, so here's a big question for you. Fundamentally, how do you feel like 22 years of your life in a foreign country, how would you say that it has shaped you as the man you are today?
Well, Indonesia is sort of the country that I feel most at home in. Unfortunately for my parents, because they live in California, and they're often like, "Are you really gonna, live there forever?" I'm like, "Well, maybe not, but I'm definitely always going to have roots here, and potentially have a place to call home here." But what it's really done for me is just open my eyes to the world. Just as simple, as recognizing a British accent versus an Australian accent versus South African accent versus Singaporean accent versus a Vietnamese accent versus, a Chinese accent from Hong Kong, from mainland, or Japanese versus Korean, Filipino versus Indonesia, which is like their cousins, and just understanding these relationships within the world and having sort of a baseline to people that you can talk with them and sort of try and connect with in a level that just opens up dialogue and sort of allows myself to know a little bit where they're coming from. And the two regions that I'd like to get more involved with the three is really South America. I haven't been south of Mexico. And Europe, I've only been to a little bit, although I have some Portuguese roots. And then Africa, which I've only traveled to once. I don't have as much knowledge about those places, but yeah, for me, it's a blessing. It's the biggest blessing of my life to be able to know and call people from around the world and from different countries my friends.
You were talking about Jordan Peterson earlier, and have you heard his philosophy about having 1 foot in order and 1 foot in chaos?
No, I haven't. But he's an interesting guy.
He's a very interesting guy.
I've been listening to a lot of him.
Yeah, I went on
very controversial.
I go with Jordan Peterson. I've gone down a few rabbit holes with what he's into and followed him, and he's definitely like, for lack of a better term, sort of he kicks the hornet's nest on some very sensitive and delicate issues. But his intellect is so high. He's able to explain things on such a practical and logical and rational level. He's kind of hard to dispute at times. But he had...
Yeah, I like his rational side, just like basically calling things out as they are.
Yeah, and that can be polarizing, and I think he's quite brave in doing that. But he talks about this philosophy of having 1 foot in order and 1 foot in chaos in terms of leading a balanced life. And I guess my question to you is, like, you are from a Western culture, you're Californian, but you live in Indonesia and you have done so for many years. But I guess fundamentally you can leave Indonesia whenever you like, correct? So do you feel like the life you're living is giving you this 1 foot in order, 1 foot in chaos sort of mentality?
I would say so. I don't know if it's Indonesia versus the U.S. I think anybody would, I think entrepreneurs would agree that when you have your own business that you're, continuing to develop, that's that's like 1 foot in chaos for sure.
Thank you.
I would say it's that more than the for me, I was born in Indonesia and then went back and forth my whole life. So I don't know anything different. So that is not really chaos for me. I could probably be in like Lisbon or Greece right now and probably be just fine, honestly, or like, I don't know, wherever, maybe Cairo. But so I don't think that that's a chaos for me. I will adapt to wherever I am, which is a real skill that I've developed. And that's what I'm super grateful for, knowing people from around the world. Maybe I'll connect with somebody. That's why Facebook and Instagram are such interesting tools, because you can have somebody that's maybe 2-3 degrees away that you connect with in anywhere in the world. So for me, the 1 foot in chaos definitely makes sense. Now, I would like to figure out how not to do that. That would be the goal for me. I would like to not have 1 foot in chaos. I don't necessarily want 1 foot in chaos. A little bit of chaos is okay, but not 1 foot and one. That's like a 50-50 ratio. More like a 10% ratio of chaos would be okay.
Is that a product of being older? Do you want that? You want the stability?
Yeah, for sure. For sure, it is a product of being older. Yeah. I would say. Like my 20s, like welcome chaos for sure. Like left the career, moved to Indo, moved to Southern California, then moved back here. Like it was definitely chaos.
We talked about that in our last episode, like your I guess your passage, to Indonesia. I mean, you were effectively born in Indonesia, correct?
Yeah, I was born in Jakarta, in Java.
And your parents had to make, I love the story. Can you just tell us that story again, how your parents had to make a last-minute decision whether you were going to be, like, they had 72 hours to decide if you were Indonesian or American?
Yeah, no, they had to have 72. My dad had 72 hours to get like 146 signatures or something to prove that I was American. Yeah, it was crazy. Like, back in those days, I was really one of the only foreigners born in Indonesia. There's some guys, some people I've met in Bali that were as well, but there wasn't really set up for that sort of international, establish your passport, establish your nationality right when you're born and prove that you're, of that nationality. So there was a lot of processes my dad had to figure out that he was trying to prepare for, but then I guess like there was a 3-day period that he had to go get 146 or 47 signatures and then end up at the embassy. So, praise to my dad, praise to Pops for getting through. Well, my mom was she had a cracked vertebrae or something in her, from birth or something, just kind of, of course, as he should just take off. So he was like gone for the first 3 days, just like boom, out. Okay, he's born, he's good, he's healthy. Boom, I'm out.
You told me that your father and your mother were both school teachers, correct?
Yeah, they're teachers at the international school in Jakarta.
They're quite, in my opinion, being a school teacher is an awesome job, and it's very purposeful and noble, but it's quite stable. It's stable from from the perspective of earning a living. Why do you feel that you became the entrepreneur of the family? Was that, just innate in you, or like where did that influence come from? That entrepreneurial spirit that you have?
Yeah, well, okay. So basically, just to be 100% honest, I wouldn't say I have an entrepreneurial spirit until maybe only in the last like couple 3-4 years. Before it was like going through with it in passion, and then now it's like it's picked up. It's like it's kind of a skill that you develop along the line. So you got to throw yourself over the edge at first, and then I think you develop that entrepreneurial skill. I think there is a spirit. I agree with that maybe I had, but part of it was being around the school so much growing up that it kind of like I was tired of it. I didn't want to be a part of the school anymore. Everybody knew me. My dad was a basketball coach. My mom, they had been at the school forever. So growing up, I couldn't escape anywhere. Like I was always like, oh, that's Kai Paul. Like anywhere I went or anywhere people knew me. So the anonymity didn't exist. So I didn't want to continue that scale also. Like there was a point where I just kind of got tired of school, and I went through a little bit of a lull. I didn't get it back until really my last 2 years, my last year in high school and my first 2 years or 3 years in college. Really, I was just like not into school at all. And I just didn't want to be part of the education system. And while I respect it fully and thoroughly, I just didn't think it was my calling, because I didn't love it. I fell out of love with it. I loved it growing up, and I had a great childhood, but just didn't want to be a teacher for some reason. Although I love the aspect of being a teacher, I love the aspect of being a coach, aspect of being a leader. And to be honest, I'm not writing it off, because I would love to be able to maybe in like 10 years or something, if Indosole does well and things progress, I'd love to like teach sustainability or environmentally sound practices, and in particular in manufacturing at potentially like a university level or something like that, or high school, because I really feel that some of the knowledge base that Indosole has been developing can be shared with new up and comers and risers that are trying to go into production or manufacturing or sustainability or responsible practices.
Here's a question for you, Kai.
So definitely not just. What's
Here's
that?
one for you then. Would Indosole be willing to share their knowledge and their secrets for the purpose of perpetuating sustainable manufacturing practices?
Yeah, 100%. I think we already have been and already are. I think we've already made that decision.
You're a B Corp certified company. Can you just explain exactly what that means and who created? I think Patagonia created that certification, correct? So
Patagonia created it.
Keep going.
Yeah, they're the founders of B Corp.
And what is it?
They make you go. They developed an assessment. So you have to go through a full assessment. And now we first were a B Corp, I think a little over 5 years ago now, might even be 6. And we just recertified again. And it's improved a lot. It's gotten deeper, and it's gotten more widespread, and it's gotten more specific. So I give them credit for developing it. They're continuing to develop it. And you have to go through an assessment throughout your company wide. And it involves manufacturing. It involves office practices, like your light bulbs. You have recycling. It involves company pay, company holiday, or employee pay, employee holidays, employee health insurance. So it goes all the way down to the fuel you use in the transportation that you use at the company. So it goes to how many plants you have at your workspace. So it's all encompassing, and it allows, what it does is it also allows a little bit of improvement. Okay. So you have to get an 80% score. And so there's a 20-point sort of place there where you can improve in the future. So I think it's good because it includes more people. It's not as and you don't have to pay as much money as things like fair trade. Now, the money that you do pay is percentage of revenue. So it's a more fair version of some of these other certifications. Patagonia is the founder of it, and some of the best companies in the world are now B Corps, and it's a community. It's a way to level yourself. It's the responsible thing to do, in my opinion. As we were talking about earlier, if you're an individual, a company, a government, doing the responsible thing, becoming a B Corp really is a way for you to take a responsible action, because even if you don't get the 80 right away, you have the guidelines of how to be a more responsible company. So they're very open and allow companies to sort of see the process And it's fine if you're not there yet. You can develop those processes and get to that 80 score and then get to that 100. We're very lucky we got 116 this time. And we were only 84 last time, or 86 last time. I think we were 86 last time. And we got above 100 this time. So very happy with that. But it shows you that over the last 4 years since our last recertification, we've been able to improve. And I think that's really the most important thing about environmentalism and being responsible is you're improving, you know? Yeah. And that's like everyday life too, as humans, right? You're improving, you're progressing.
Do you feel like you're constantly at odds though with, you know, being like an environmentally friendly company and perpetuating purposeful manufacturing and ethical standards, and you're caught between that and then also making like stylish and appealing footwear? Do you get
yes and no?
It become a conundrum where you want to do something that's, you know, really environmentally friendly, but then you want to make a product that's like cool and like people want to buy it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, no, it does. It's 100%. Yeah, you know, fortunately for us, we have our values that we all have set out and we adhere to and we all agree with. So for me, that really helps me on the manufacturing side of things when you know, say Chris, Kyle, the team suggests something, and then I kind of get tasked with going out and trying to find how that could happen. For me, when I come across something and it doesn't fit our values, then it's just like, nope, move on to the next. Instead of like having to sort of think about some sort of like balancing act, like, oh, no. Well, no, it's for us, it's pretty clear. And then it's like, you can always, like, I don't know, we're always optimists. So we feel that we can make something that's cool, stylish, comfortable, within a economical, within a price range that is fair, and find the process or the material that will allow us to progress continually. So whether it's recycled, whether it's from a natural material, whether it's made by artisans, you know, all these factors, and sometimes it doesn't tick every single box, but it's the responsible choice. And again, that's where the idea of responsible manufacturing and being the most responsible footwear company in the world, it's also like, and this is where I come back to the 2050 mark, where it's not a set of certain defined rules that you always have to follow. You have to make the conscious, the responsible, and the best move forward. And that's kind of what sustainability really should be more about. It's not 100% black and white.
And it's progress, not perfection?
Yeah, definitely. It's progress, not perfection. Trying to lead towards perfection is a nice thing, but you're not going to get there right away. I mean, it's taken us 11 years to get to the point where we are right now, and we're still progressing. We're still excited about making things better and improving processes and practices. So we're not perfect yet, but we're continuing to progress.
What's next then? What's the future hold, aside from working with some of these bigger tire companies? What's next in terms of your product and vision?
Yeah, so we're reaching out beyond two things, beyond just footwear, and then beyond we're reaching out with we're continuing with some new materials. And I think the best thing to do would be to talk about these new materials with potentially maybe Kyle and I, or Chris as well, come like April, because don't want to let the cat out of the bag, and it is some things that we do have to protect for right now. But you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Yeah, super excited. The other thing that I can talk about right now is we've expanded some ability to make some new products, and we can customize some of these products a lot easier, so we can work with some larger companies to produce products for them that are more responsible, more sustainable, better materials, and provide an avenue for them to either give to their employees or sell in their own companies that that can allow them to reach more responsible manufacturing processes as well. So we've kind of gone into the B2B realm as well. So if you are a larger company, say even a hotel chain or a large corporation that's looking for something that is a responsible choice for their products, reach out to us. We've developed what we call a made to order program, and that's really kind of something that's really exciting for us to develop, and has kind of been born out of this time.
Okay, what would you say to someone who's just starting out and wants to travel in a similar direction to Indosole? What would you say to them who want to manufacture?
Do it.
Is that all? Just do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean in specific tires?
Not tires.
Using tires?
Who want to create a niche in conscious manufacturing and environmentally friendly practices. What would you say to them? Like, it's going to be a tough road, or reach out to me and I'll give you some ideas or tips. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But the two things that I think all of us would say is make sure your product is good. Like, that's the most important thing. And then second of all, make sure you have somebody that you can talk to about finances.
Right. Because you got to be pragmatic about that.
Because if you're already in the intent of making something responsibly or sustainably or whatever niche you want to call it, it's not even a niche anymore. It's a baseline. Like, I was looking at shirts today, right? And like, if you're not organic cotton or hemp or some are bamboo, rayon, some whatever, tencel. There's argument of which one is the most responsible way to manufacture. But if you're not one of those, you're not really competing right now, unless you're a streetwear brand, and that's even changing, right? Like, you look at Noah, and they're all organic cotton tees. So, if you're not hemp, if you're not organic cotton as a baseline, then you're not really in the game anymore. And so you better make really cool products. You better, have a great product that you stand behind. It has some meaning behind it. It's either you're joining up with artists, musicians, or an intent, like maybe you're going for camping or cycling, or, some sort of community that you're backing, or some sort of potentially purpose-driven angle as well. So there's these baselines at this sort of time in history, which you look at trends, right? And we've looked at trends for the last 15 years. And Chris is somebody that really, I really identify with this. Chris is our other business partner, with Kyle and Chris. Along with Kyle, that, you look at suits, and then it went into jeans and went with denim, and then went into streetwear. And then now it's on the sustainability trend. And, now this trend of sustainability, thankfully, has now become a baseline in manufacturing. And so if you're not sort of producing responsibly and in a method that's progressive, utilizing new materials, recycled materials, then you're kind of missing out. And so to focus on that moving forward, I think you're going to lose out, because that's already a baseline. So you got to really think about what product you're going to develop, the durability of it, the look of it, the style of it, who you're going to connect with. These things are going to be most important once you already establish the baseline ethics of your brand.
Sweet, man. Like, it's, I think a lot of people will get a lot out of hearing that. I think there's a lot of good ideas out there. I think it can be very easy to be deterred because it could seem like a very big challenge. But I think people such as yourself have paved you've paved the way, really. And I'm going to ask you just like one more question. And my question is, how would you now define the term entrepreneurship after being, like you said, you didn't really consider yourself an entrepreneur till a few years ago, but how would you define entrepreneurship?
I mean, it's really just being resourceful, and being able to, part of entrepreneurship is discipline, right? So it's kind of like a martial art where you have to believe in yourself, and you have to work for yourself and your team and your partners, and have a continual belief that you're moving forward and things are going to happen. And then you can't, it's okay to question it, I would say sometimes, because I think that's a natural part of humanity, but you got to keep pushing forward. And it's kind of like developing a practice.
Yeah, man.
Where you have to just continually stay at it and keep fighting. And then the resourceful side of things is continual growth, learning, and trying to reach out to people that you look up to, or that you like their way of life, or they've had a success, and that continual learning is really important as well. So there's the discipline to the work, and then there's that continual sort of gaining inspiration and learning and being resourceful and adapting and incorporating those practices, fine-tuning them and adding to your work. And then you're fine-tuning, you're fine-tuning, you're working until you're continually improving the machine that is the product of your entrepreneurial spirit.
Wow, man. Wow.
And hopefully you can just keep moving forward.
Dude, it's so good, Kai. Man, it's been epic. Like, just, I love hearing you speak, and you speak so well, and you just, I just love your openness as well. And it's been epic. Is there anything like you want to end on? Like, I think that's a nice way to end. But is there any final message you want to put out there to the world?
I mean, like, basically, we at Indosole really appreciate, the messages and people that you're, connecting with in the world. And, if I think you alluded to it before too, like, if there's any questions about sort of what we do, or anything that you have a question of like developing a brand and making more responsible choices, like, that's another thing that we would like to, like, be here for as well. We do believe that we're here to serve as well, and trying to, back up what we talk about and sort of improve practices and procedures. So please reach out. My email is kai@indosole.com. Really, really super simple. Or or find me on Insta. Like,
that's nice.
Really here, like, your listenership are people that I really respect, and people that have found you already are people that I already have an immediate respect for. So I really appreciate all that you do, Shannon, and keep going, man. I think this is like 82 or 83, and like, that's really impressive.
Thanks, Kai. I know, man, and thanks for believing in me, bro. You sort of did from the start, and from the moment I met you, and it means a lot, dude. I'm inspired, and I'm inspired by your journey, and I just can't wait to see how this pans out over the long term, because I think, like you, I'm in this for the long haul, and I can see that Indosole are really in it for the long haul. And when you sort of touched on the fact that, one day you'd like to be a university lecturer to share your knowledge and experience that you've acquired over this journey that you're on. And the way I see it, Kai, is what you're doing is, like, so far you've done a 10 or 11 year apprenticeship, and that's just going to keep growing and growing. Yeah. And you can't teach that at a university, like, in 4 years. You have to be living it and breathing it, and it's the product of passion. And I feel the passion, and I'm drawn to that energy. So thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Now listen,
appreciate that. Appreciate your.
The other thing is, Kai, man, I ask all guests to come to the podcast with a cause. So is there like a specific cause or charity or social enterprise that you know like to advocate for today? Kai?
Well, yeah, I actually was really inspired by the hearing about the young man who needed the car. So I'd like to give him a shout out. And yeah, I think like at this moment in time, like let's get that guy a car.
For me, it's such a simple one.
And also, we're working with Souls for Souls. We're working with Souls for Souls as well. So I'd love to shout them out as well. They're doing a great job. So
No worries.
But yeah, let's get the guy a car, man. I mean, I've seen him skate. It's so inspiring.
So good, dude. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Kai.
Yeah, let's get him
that really means a lot, dude, because that one's just a real simple one. It's real straightforward. It's like he's a human being that needs a vehicle to move his children around so get them back and forth to school. Let's just do that.
Yeah.
Think it.
Yeah, that makes the world a better place. You know what I mean? Like that is a good thing to do. That's a responsible choice to make, right? Like that is a great. I mean, I'm inspired. That guy really inspires me. I mean, a lot. So yeah, I would love to help get that guy a car.
All right.
I'll donate myself.
Awesome. Thanks, Kai. And I'll put a link in Kai's show notes to the Help Stephen Ellis Get a Car GoFundMe and also the Souls for Soul initiative, which is absolutely beautiful. Kyle Parsons also talked about that. And you can find those links in Kai's show notes via the terriblehappytalks.com website. There's also links to the various platforms that you can find this podcast, such as Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. And you can select the platform that works best for your device. Now, listen, Kai, this is awkward, but I do it every single week. And as a guest of the Terrible Happy Talks podcast, you get a free pair of Indosoles. I don't know, man. I don't know. What do we do? Maybe just go and hook yourself up.
Yeah, I'll hook myself up.
Hook yourself up. You know, you might.
We're working on some new ones that are pretty exciting. So I'll put in a sample order for myself. So thank you. Thanks very much.
And thanks for your support. And if you go to indosole.com and use code THT, you'll get a 15% discount. So get on that, especially if you're in, Australasia. There's it's coming into summer, and get yourself some slides or flip flops. And bro, I think we did it, man. I think we're done. Thanks, buddy. It's always a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's good to see your face, man. And you know what? Stay on the line and let's have a little bit of a post podcast chat, brother. Ew.